AM 1430 KRGI, 105.5 FM. Good morning. I'm Brian Gallagher. This is Community Connection. Thursdays, we turn our focus to education, and here on behalf of Grand Island Public Schools is the principal at Howard Elementary, Jessica Schroeder, to talk about the wind-down process. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Now, you've been in the school system a long time, but second year as a principal, right?
That is correct.
Okay, let's talk about that transition.
Okay.
Let's talk about getting in here as an educator, and then you go through the process, and all of a sudden you're the one in the office.
Yeah, it's definitely different looking from your classroom and just worrying about the 20 kids or 24 kids in your classroom, and then going to be a building principal and thinking about all the students. At Howard, we have about 450 kiddos that we're thinking about what's happening and making sure that their needs are met every day. So that transition, you really have to start really thinking about the global process of a building.
There's 450 kids at Howard Elementary. That's amazing.
Yeah, we have preschool class. We have 2 preschool classrooms as well, and they do a morning and an afternoon.
All right, so let's talk about the whole process, because you're at the point now where you're getting ready to wrap up classes. How long has this planning for this been going on?
We usually start end of the year planning like back in March, where we start thinking about some of those activities that we do at the end of the year, and then the transition for like our preschoolers moving into kindergarten, and then our 5th graders moving into 6th grade. So we really start that process a lot earlier. Some even clear in January.
I know that GIPS did the registration process here recently, and trying to do it online seems to make a lot of sense from an ease. However, there are those who are still not comfortable with the online world, even though it's been part of our world for almost 25 years. Does that have a direct effect then on the number of new students you see, or that advanced look at what your roster will look like for the coming year?
Absolutely. That helps us plan to make sure that we get all the materials, curriculum ordered for during the summer. So that online registration lets us know, like, okay, these students are going to be in our building. We need this many materials for each classroom. It also helps us identify what's going to be best for how many classrooms we need. So if we have more than a classroom can have, we're able to make sure that we have the correct amount of classrooms for the students.
You mentioned class size there. Is it a hard number? Is it kind of a floating number, trying to make sure that, I mean, if you're within 1 or 2, you're okay, but then there comes that point where you just have to say, okay, we need one more?
Yeah. So we, as a district, they've created kind of the classroom numbers, like what are the set numbers that we can have in a classroom. And so we use that to help determine whether then we need to add additional classrooms, or if we need to maybe not have 4 sections of a class and we go down to 3 sections. So that online registration really helps us determine all of that, so we can start planning then for the next year.
What other plans come up? Are you already setting your curriculum, especially in grade school? I mean, you're talking about kids that are around each other all the time. They're not mixing in the hallways as you will often see in middle school and high school.
Yeah, so we really look at, what's our next step. So as a district, we have kind of our curriculum that they have picked out. This next year, we are going to be doing some additional piloting for math, not at Howard, but as a district in Grand Island. So we will continue using our same curriculum that we were using last year, but we do get new materials like the student workbooks that they use. We have to get new ones of those, so we're ready for the next year.
So in a perfect world, if you're wanting to make sure that you got all the supplies and all the equipment that you need, it needs to be in-house by middle July?
Yep. We strive for middle of July. Obviously, we're dependent on other companies to get that in. But our district office works all summer long to make sure that the schools have what they need by middle July, because teachers report back in August right away as we start the school year.
Oh, it comes quickly.
It does.
Jessica Schroeder is the principal at Howard Elementary. We're talking about the things that they're doing to wind down a school term and to get ready for the new term. When it comes to families that are around a school, I'm sure that you see a wave. Now, you're in your second year, so maybe not the same amount for you personally, but Yet there are those on your staff that have maybe seen some kids that started as kindergartners. Next thing you know, they're moving on to middle school, and you're kind of going, it can't be that fast, but that's how it works.
Yeah, the end of the year is bittersweet. You start the year with a group of students at every grade level, and you build those connections and relationships. You learn so much about them. And so the end of the year, it's an exciting time. We get to celebrate all the growth that students have made, but then we also are sending them to the next grade level. Sometimes that's in the building, but then also sometimes it's sending them off to middle school. And yes, we have lots of teachers that have seen them from kindergarten all the way to 5th grade. And so there is a little bit of a sadness of that transition when they leave our classrooms.
All right, I'm going to sneak in a question on you now, because you said you've been in the school system longer than your tenure here at Howard. Okay, so have some of the kids that you started with way back when all of a sudden become seniors?
Oh, yes. I have students who have families. They're married. They have jobs. Yes, I've been around about 19 years in Grand Island Public Schools. So
I feel better now because when I started doing my broadcasting, just for perspective, when I moved to Grand Island, Tom Rathman was a senior in high school, Grand Island Senior High. Okay, so I am now broadcasting grandkids of ones that were in school in.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have it any other way.
Absolutely.
All right. So what are your summer plans before you start thinking about school again? Or do you ever stop?
I try to stop a little bit. As a principal, I work until mid-June, and then I get a couple weeks off, and I come back then like the second week in July. So during that little window of time, I have 2 daughters. We do a lot of softball in the summer and some traveling. I am taking a team of teachers to a conference in Washington, D.C. to learn some things so we can bring it back for the next school year. So I'm super excited about that.
Have you been to D.C. before?
I have never been to D.C.
You will love it. You will absolutely love it.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, it is something that is a life changer. And this is not an endorsement by any means, but if you want to have a better handle on what's going on in the world today, go to Washington, D.C. at least once and absorb as much as you can quickly. It may seem overwhelming, but by the time you're done, it will change your perspective, I promise. Awesome. So you will really enjoy the trip, and especially if you allow yourself to learn and listen. Mm-hmm. Come back and see us again sometime, would you?
I will.
And I would really like some more updates on all of these kids that you've been teaching.
Okay, sounds good.
Jessica Schroeder is the principal at Howard Elementary, getting ready to wind it down and start it up all over again. Great job. Good morning from AM 1430 KRGI 105.5 FM.